Hi, welcome to another episode of Passin Gas Garage, where we love all things petrol, of course. A couple of subscribers asked me to do some more kind of repair videos, so I wanted to do one on this ZR1 Corvette. This is a 94 ZR1 Corvette, pretty rare, 448 made, as you know from a previous video. The motor is unique to this car. But what I'm going to do is we're going to change the oil today on it, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to do that and how clean you can do it. You no longer need to dress like I am dressed. You don't have to worry about spilling it all over the garage or the driveway or over yourself and the wife or significant other being mad at you, or waiting in those long lines at the dealer, etc. And not trusting, there's only certain people you're going to trust your baby to. So again, I'm going to show you how easy this is and how clean it is, really is. So what I'll do is I want to show you again some of the tools needed right now. Here are some of the things needed. I've got a trash can there, of course. I've got some Mobil 1 synthetic oil. It's a 530. That's what the car came with. I think, it is one of the better, if not the best, synthetic oil. You get into big debates about that. And I'm no mechanical engineer or electronic engineer of any sort, but you can look at the reviews, you can look at what it's done online, and it is definitely a top grade oil. The filter, this filter is a Bosch filter. They've done some studies on them for this type of car, and I'll go into it a little bit more depth, but it's a great filter for this car. There is just really like a band clamp and oil filter clamp that is sized to that. I kind of made this we're going to use, and the reason why it's going to be so clean today is this is a suction device that I purchased, and anything that has a dipstick you can use this on. So not only a car, you could use it on maybe a boat engine, you could use it on your lawnmower engine, for example. So you don't, those are always terribly messy to do. Snowblower, anything you have that has a dipstick. It comes with a couple of different attachments. The last little skinny part that you see right here comes with a couple of those, so that they're in different thicknesses so that they'll fit down the dipstick hole. As you see up close, it's graduated. Each line is 1 quart of oil, so it holds about 6.5 quarts. It has a overflow stoppage valve in there, so it will stop and it won't just keep pulling it out. This is something that I made. You're always wanting to get rid of the oil in a recyclable manner. Take it to your different landfills or dumps. They always have, seems like, at least where I am, tanks where you can put in the used oil, so it's good for the ecology. This is just, I had one of my different places that I used to go put tires on. I asked them if they had any big empty jugs. This one they had, but it didn't have a cap on it, which you need a cap. So what I ended up doing is I just went to Home Depot, found some pipes that would fit in it. I used just regular plumbing cement, put them in, and it has on the top just a screw in or screw out tube. So this is something that I'll pour the used oil in, cap it off nice and tight, because it is in your car. You don't want it falling over. Now it's a little bit tall. I know a lot of people have SUVs. I do not. So it fits in there. You could bungee cord it in if you wanted to make sure it stayed up. But that's what I use to transport the oil from my home to the landfill where it's recycled. Some other tools here too. Those are some soft cushions that can go over the car, so they're foam, so that you don't hurt your finishes or anything. And there is a white Sharpie. I'll get into detail a little bit later what I am going to use that for. But without further ado, here is the patient. So we will basically get this going. I gotta get that oil warmed up close to temperature. The warmer it is, the better it'll flow through the suction device. So and that's good practice in any car. So definitely doesn't have to be completely up to operating temperature, but the warmer it is, the better and the easier it's going to be. So I will continue this in a second and get it going. Another one of the tools that I didn't show you before when I showed you everything I had here at the side is, you know, I had bought quite a while ago this Sears that was around, it's a little roll around cart. You know, it was starting out to be my oil change cart, but it's become one and everything. You know, it's got two nice little slide doors, you know, drawers I should say, that, you know, have different things in, and the top will open up. Now it's got more junk in it, you know, and that's unfortunately with me what happens. I just start putting more and more stuff, but it rolls around, makes it easy to you know, bring it over to the car. But you know, like I said, it was a dedicated oil change cart. Only oil was underneath and different oil things, oil filter wrenches in there, etc. And you know, but it has morphed into everything, of course, and I need to clean it out. But that's an episode in the future. So for now, anyways, that is another tool that I wanted to show you. All right. So I was inside, I showed the mileage, popped the hood from inside. And of course on these cars, it's great the way they open up the hood, boom, open it up. There's a little, it locks right here, right where this is. So put the hood down, you push this in and pull the hood down. But this is the engine again. This is a worn-off engine. Again, it was basically put together by Mercury Marine in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And what's kind of cool about it is over on the other side, I'll walk over there. The dipstick and also the oil filter are right up here on top, so there's no crawling under the car. There is the dipstick, and you can see it. And what I did with that white marker, since it's a black filter, is I put the date on it and the mileage when I last changed it. So it's a little bit more than a year ago, about 2,300 miles. So really, you know, I could go a little longer. I'm doing this actually for a sale. So anyways, this is where we are with it, and just gonna let it warm up, and then we will start changing it, and I'll show you exactly what's going on. Here is the odometer in the car, and it shows right now, I'm trying to blink at the sun, 50,339. So that is where we are going to change the oil and the oil filter. Again, the oil is, we use a Mobil 1 530 synthetic, and the filter is a Bosch 3401, I believe is the number filter for it. That for this particular car is a great filter and got great reviews. And now we are just waiting for it to warm up to temp, so that when I you know, drain the oil, it gets out all the oil just a little easier. Mark here again with Passin Gas Garage. Just a little follow-up on while the car is warming up, I wanted to show you this oil filter. You know, it's good to pick out one that is very, it's a low feedback, that has an anti drain back feature in it. And the reason is this one sits straight up and down. So if it didn't have an anti-drain back valve in it, basically all the oil would come out, and every time you start it, it would be a dry start. These tend to, you know, if you leave the car sit for a week, unstarted, 2 weeks, you know, it is going to be fairly dry. So you got to be very careful about that. But these are the slowest draining back. They've done some tests on them. So again, just a good filter for this particular car. There's some other filters that also do a great job. So on this one, again, I've written down the mileage at which I'm changing it. On the top, I put the date and again the mileage, so anybody can see that. Another thing I like to do, you know, been a big advocate of it, is, you might have saw it on the video before, I put a, and there's one on it right now. If you look on this, I've got a magnet on the side of it. It's just a magnet, you know, you can buy it at Home Depot. They're a couple bucks, not very expensive. But in doing so, and I'll put it on after I change it, I'll just put it on the side probably instead of on the top. The oil goes in. If you've never really looked at an oil filter, So the oil goes in through those holes, and there's the filtering media, how it goes. I could put it on the top right there, but you know, typically I put it on the side. So anyways, that is basically how these filters work. I'm gonna go check the temperature. This car has an oil temperature gauge in it, which is awesome. It's got an oil pressure gauge, oil temperature, you know, water temperature, so you can look at the oil and see what temperature it is. It'll do it in Fahrenheit or in Celsius. So you know, it's great to look at that and know where you are. If I would have taken it out for a short drive, you know, certainly it would have warmed up quicker. But I'm going to go check it out and see if I think it's warm enough to do it. All right. So I just turned the car off. The oil is at 140 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's plenty warm enough to get everything out. So basically what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to pull out my dipstick. And it is hot to the touch. I am going to get a little rag over here just to clean it off. So we've got the dipstick now pulled out. Got the old box. I'll put the dirty filter in it once I get that out, and that'll probably be the kind of the dirtiest part of this entire operation. But again, should be a very clean operation. That's what I'm stressing here. You don't need to dress like I'm dressed anymore. So again, this is the suction device. Might need to put my glasses on, but here is the, I just pulled the dipstick out, of course, and there it is. That's just me not being able to see so well anymore. But anyways, this is fitting down. Just push it down the dipstick hole, and you'll feel it bottom out. You know, it's in the bottom. Now what we're going to do is I am going to pump up this, and I'll turn this around so you can get an idea of what's going on. And you'll see the oil start to come up. There it goes. You can see it right now. Already coming up the stick. I'll just keep pumping it. Now, you don't have to keep pumping it the entire time. You're just going to build up some pressure and let it do the work. So that's it right there. And we'll let it, you can see, you can already see it starting to fill up the cylinder. Now it's not super fast, let me say that, but again, I didn't crawl under this car. I didn't put it up on a lift. I didn't have to, you know, drive it up on ramps or anything like that, crawl underneath of it. Couple of reasons I don't have to do that. Again, the oil filter's on top. A lot of foreign cars now, some of the, I had a prior E350 Mercedes as my general car, and that had a filter right on top, and it had a dipstick still. Some of the newer cars don't even have dipsticks, which, you know, is kind of a shame, because without the dipstick you really can't utilize this device. But for your older cars like this, it is a great device. So you can see it filling. You know, so already in the time that we've been just watching, that's almost 1 quart of oil that has come out of the car. So again, you know, and again, if you want to see the deal here, there is the device. You know, you can put your foot on this to hold it down, pump it up a little bit more, and it'll just, you know, it was already still working, it's still sucking it out. And you can see it, you know, it's it'll take a little bit to get there all the way, but it certainly is pretty effortless. So maybe while that's sucking, I'm gonna loosen up this top filter and let it also you know, drain out, and so it kind of it'll break a little seal there, I think, air wise, and hopefully that oil will come out through the bottom. I don't know if it'll stop the suction here, but I guess we'll find out, won't we? So let's see what happens with this. Let's see if I can position this can watch a half mechanic at work. So let's see if we've got that situated so it'll stay up there and give you an idea what we got going on. There we go. Hopefully that'll hold up. So again, I'll take this magnet off. You know, they're a buck or two at Home Depot. I think it's a great deal, you know. Yeah, and these work both ways. You know, again, if you've never changed oil before, you can do it. You might be scared at first. You know, you can read the manufacturer's book to find out exactly how many quarts it is. You know, typically they'll add another quart with filter change. It's not quite a quart, obviously. Usually what I'll do is just be short of whatever it says as far as filling it up. Check it on the dipstick after the car is running. You know, this gets out amazingly. They've looked at it. It really gets out pretty much all the oil. No different than if you were to take the plug off the bottom of the pan. Anyways, it will take it off. So basically we're just, so these work two ways. That would have been tightening it. You just put it on. So you just slide it around. So like a band clamp. Boom. You can see it already starting to turn it. I'm just doing it. I'm doing it slow, looking for the leaks. That's all I'm trying to do. Making sure that, you know, the oil in it basically is going straight down into the pan that it has. And you know, it's loose enough now. You know, I can turn it by hand. And again, look, you can see how I write the mileage on, the date, all over it, on the side, on the top. I just think it's a great idea. If it's a white filter, I would use a black Sharpie. You know, it'll stay on there. And, you know, mark it before you get your hands all greasy or anything like that. However, you see I don't have any gloves on. I will put my gloves on. This, while this is a very clean venture, you know, I bought a box of black gloves from, you know, Home Depot. And they sell them there. It's easy enough to get. They're cheap enough to get. I mean, they have different ones. During the whole pandemic, you know, it was hard to get gloves. They were charging all kinds of money for them, which is ridiculous, of course. But anyways, gloves are on now. And I don't really need them because I'm not spilling that any oil or anything. But, you know, a little bit of oil could come here. And so we're just, again, twisting that off. You can see right now that I can already see that doesn't look like any oil so far has had any issues. Hopefully my big head is not in the way for you. There it is. Whoop. So there is some oil that came off. And that's, you know, this car, it's probably more so because this the way this filter is set up. So that's, you know, that would have happened whether we were under the car or if we were, you know, on top of the car. It's straining down a little bit there. I don't know if I suck on this more, maybe I'll pull it down a little bit quicker. I was hoping that would do that. That being said, I'll grab a couple paper towels, which are always good to have around, and just get up some of this excess oil right here. Now, if I would have left this on, some of the people will leave it overnight so that, you know, even a day or two, if they know they're going to change the oil, they do that all the oil's in the pan, and you know, and it all drains out of this filter. So, you know, are there advantages to that? You know, could be, I guess. Maybe it's just that you get all the oil out. I change the oil regularly enough, as you see. That was a little over, it was 2,300 miles that you know, I know that that is enough that that even if I don't get every single ounce out, that we're going to be fine with that. So again, that was the old filter. So the new filter, there's your sealing gasket right here, as you're looking at it right here. You know, traditionally what you do is you'll take some of the old oil and you'll just put it on the gasket. It's the way they've been doing it for, well, as long as they've had the cars, and you know, so I guess I could say 100 years. It has been that long. A little bit of oil on that. So again, this is just goes right back down on top like that. Fits right on. Starts spinning it around. It's already hand tight. You know, there's a lot of people that say, oh, just do it hand tight, another quarter turn. Well, I hear you, but you know, I think that it's easy enough to get to. So, you know, you don't want to crush it, be some gargantuan, you know, He-Man tightness on it. But anyways, I feel like that's tight. We'll look for leaks. You know, some cars you might have to watch out a little bit. Again, if the filter was in the other direction, if it was facing upward, we wouldn't have dropped any oil at all. So again, that's the style of this car a little bit. So the filter now has been changed. I can put this original one back on that I had on it. Boom, there you go. Now you got a magnet on it. Again, you don't need to buy any special magnets. They're all magnets. So you can buy some at Home Depot. They got flat ones, round ones. You know, so any metal shavings, the reason you're putting them on there is that as the motor wears on these dry startups, you know, it's metal against metal potentially. So, you know, you will have some minor, that's just part of the engine wear, the bearings wear. So once the metal is, you know, it goes around the engine to not do more damage or wear it out quicker. You know, hopefully most of it gets caught in the filter. And when you throw it out, there it is. So, you know, these are high winding motors, you know, up to $7 grand. And, you know, it's nice to keep them clean inside and everything. Haven't talked about where you put the oil in on this car, of course. You might see it right here. Here is the oil filler. That's where you fill it, right here. So you just unscrew it, easy enough. Put it over here. Let's take a quick look at how much in this period of time. So when we're looking at it, you can already see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5.5 quarts in that short period of time. I know there's more oil in there because when there's no more oil in it, what you'll hear is just like if you were sucking on a straw and you finished your milkshake or your soda, and there, you know, you'll hear it do that. Guess what? This does the same thing. So you know it's done. Now I'm probably going to stop it now, and I'm going to pour this out when it gets to this level. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll have 6 quarts in. So we're measuring it as we're pulling it out too, just to give you a good idea. And we'll probably replace it with that exact same amount. So without further ado, certainly I will show you now how you relieve the pressure on this. There's a little right here. I can just push down on this, or actually what I normally do is just pull it out. I just pulled it out. You can see it going in the line, how it just sucked it all out. Basically cleared the line. Now I could pump it a time or two again just to get out the last little remnants, but that's it. It's done that. It's out. And here's how it pours. So this comes out right here. That's it. As you see, this particular one, and there's other ones again on sale. This has a little pour spout to it. Again, we've got 6 quarts in there now. You can see that. So we'll just take it over here to my handy self-made contraption, right? Uh-oh. So you notice we had a little brief stoppage there. My lovely wife decided she was going to go to the Goodwill store and drop off some stuff. Very nice to her, of course. But she's a little camera shy, and she said she didn't want to be on there. So anyways, for those of you who met her, know her, and if you haven't met her, well, maybe one day you will. So again, remember I made this. I guess this time I turned it down a little tighter than I should have. There it is. So it just unscrews. Easy enough, right? Now I could put in a, you know, a little funnel there, but this has its own. Pretty good. So there you go. Look, boom, boom, boom. Very nice and neat. As you see, no spills, but of course it is me doing it, so there could be some spills. But I haven't had any cold beverages, and at least not yet. I am an advocate of always having a beverage or two after you do any kind of work whatsoever. I do love the champagne of beers. For those that don't know, Miller High Life. But I like, the last couple of years I've been trying all the old classics, you know? But anyways, that quickly, 6 quarts of oil went in there, and as you've seen, ironically, no spillage, more importantly. Makes wife happy. Makes everybody happy. I don't need this back on right now because I'm going to have more. So let's go back to getting some more oil out with this thing. So we know we pulled out 6 quarts so far. I'll set this up back where we had it. See about, see where we can get this so you can get a good view. And make sure that well, I don't want to drop this, of course. So I apologize for taking so long. Get going. There we go. There we go. So it gives you an idea of what's going on. I am now, again, putting this back in the suction device. And here is, yeah, this suction device, by the way, hopefully my large head is not in your way. Just looking for the dipstick again. I might have to put on my, there it is, my glasses. Could have used a little light, maybe. So again, this is going down, push it down, boom. See, it hits bottom right there and stops. So we're all good. Yep. Knocked over my device here. All right, so back to pumping on it, and I'm sure you'll see that start to come out relatively quickly. You can see the oil coming up through the stick already, making its way. Again, the warmer you have it, probably the easier. You know, it's going to be toughest in wintertime, summertime. You know, definitely drive it around. You know, this oil started off at about 50 some degrees. So I've got it going, doing its deal. You can see it going through there. And when I put the oil in, I'm probably going to use just this little one. Just, you know, gives it just a little bit more area. Keep everything clean. So we'll just leave that there for right now. And it is accumulating. Like I said, when we poured that out, as you saw, it was 6 quarts. And I want to say this holds 7.8 quarts. It's but again, we'll look at exactly what it is. We'll probably put in the same amount. It was full at that point. So that kind of guarantees you to, you know, you don't want to overfill a car. You're better off being a half quart low. In fact, a lot of race cars, drag strip type drivers, they will kind of underfill pans. You know, if it's not a race specific oil pan, if it's just an old muscle car, for example, got a standard 5.5, you know, 5-quart pan on there, they'll run at a 1/2 quart low, sometimes a quart low, because it helps keep the oil off the crankshaft and it actually makes more horsepower. You know, they've got windage trays, there's other things you can do, but anyways, those are older cars. These now are a little bit more sophisticated. They'll build those windage trays into some of these oil pans. Underneath the windage tray actually gets bolted to the bottom of the motor, but they'll build the oil pan with baffles so the oil stays where the oil pickup tube is. You know, some cars, you know, you'll hear the verbiage dry sump versus wet sump. This is considered to be a wet sump motor. What does that mean, Mark? Well, you know, a wet sump motor means that it has an oil pan on the bottom of the motor, and that's where the oil is contained. When you do that, it makes typically for a little bit, maybe taller motor, we'll say, and the motor is maybe a little bit higher in the car. So a lot of the race cars or some of the foreign cars used to do it. For example, like the Ferrari Testarossa. They basically are dry sump motors where they have an oil tank, you know, underneath in the engine compartment off to the side. It might hold, I think it holds 16 quarts of oil. It's a lot of oil. And they have a very shallow oil pan. You still need a little bit of an oil pan. It has a drain plug on it. But when they do that, they could stick the motor lower in the chassis, and that gives them a better center of gravity, and it handles better. And, you know, that's a lot of times what it's about. So just different ways. Some of the newer cars are doing that. Some of the Aston Martins, you know, the Vantages, for example, mid-2000s, dry sump motors. It's just you know, you can hold more oil, and more oil cools the motor down. It's more filtering. It just, you know, it's the more oil you have in an engine, the better. You know, if you have 4 quarts of oil in a car and you lose a quart, you're losing 25% of the oil. It's a lot of oil you just lost. And you know, a lot of these older cars, this one does not leak 1 drop of oil, period, or anything. See, now it just stopped. It started to suck, just like you would if you were done your you know, your drink, you know, when you're drinking from a straw, or if you were having a, you know, a milkshake, for example. So it is, you can see it vibrating. If you look in this, you can see it, some going through, just barely. What I typically do at this point, I might move it around a little bit just to see if it gets a little bit more. Brings up another point, you know, how you park the car, you know, whether it's, you know, level or the back end pointed down or the front end. So you know, it's this is fairly low. It's got, this actually is pointing a little bit down, but I think we've got everything out now, and I can pull this out, and you can hear it making a suction noise. You can hear it, and that's it. So we pulled out 6 before. As you can see, there's an additional basically 2 quarts in there, so that's a total of 8 quarts. You know, there's probably a little bit in the filter also that we pulled out. You know, but 8 quarts is definitely what we just pulled out. As you notice, ironically, I've got 8 quarts of oil there. I believe there's 5, and there is 5 quarts as we see in that. The other 3 is 8. So we will put it in, see what the deal is. All right, we'll measure it on the stick. We need to top it off with a little bit more. We will. Let's get her going. Let me put this back up to where we think it belongs. I think hopefully that'll work for us. There we go. Oh, gotta make sure this thing stands up. We don't want the process to stop because I just dropped the camera. Anyway, there you go. That looks like that's not the best. There we go. All right, so we can move the oil wrench out of the way, and let's start filling her up. Let's bring it over. Well, first, we're going to start with the 5-gallon jug. You know, it works as a good potential future holding container for used oil, of course. But that way we get that out. You know, the partial fills of the other quarts can hang around. So again, it's 5 quarts, Mobil 1, 530. You can probably see the sticker at the front of the car on the hood, and that's what it came with, actually. So you know, it was a premium oil then and still is now. They put them in Mercedes, you know, Mobil 1. It's just they've got tons and tons and tons of engineering. And you know, there's others out there, obviously, that make great oils. One thing I would say you should be aware of in certain cars, you know, I'm a firm believer in the synthetics. You know, a lot of them do have less ZDP. You know, they used to put a lot of zinc in oil because it was just a good lubricant, and you know, it helped, I guess, this, you know, when things slam together. So some of the older cars need higher zinc levels. Something to be careful of if you really have an old car, you know, an old muscle car. Just got to be careful how much what oil you do use in it, especially with flat tappet cams. They're the ones that wear out fairly easy if the oil doesn't have enough in it. These the newer cars started using roller, call them roller cams, but basically it's a roller lifter that rolls on the top of the camshaft versus just being pushed up and down on a flat tappet. Does sound like we've got some neighborhood action behind us, as you hear. I think the crowd is mounting behind us to check on how to change the oil. This is my neighbor with his lawnmower probably wants to get his oil changed now that he sees me out here, you know. But anyways, that's almost 5 quarts in there. Like I said, I firmly believe in the Mobil 1. However, I think any good synthetic oil, major brand, even Napa, for example, they don't make their own oil. I think you're going to be fine. All right, there's 5 quarts. Well, he went away for now, so that's good news. And again, I think, you know, what I'll do sometimes, I'll look at it. This is all the same weight, 530. You know, I like to look at the oil pressure when, you know, when it's hot, the oil, what is at idle, what's the oil pressure in a car? You know, I like to see it. You know, you can read it in any, you know, most all your owner's manuals will tell you what it should be. But kind of a great rule of thumb is, I would say, I would want it to be 30 pounds per inch at idle. And then really a great rule of thumb is for every 1,000 RPMs that you're going up, you should get another 10 pounds per square inch of oil pressure. So if you were at 3,000 RPMs, for example, cruising, I would want to see the oil pressure, you know, in that 60 pounds per square inch neighborhood. You know, some of the older cars had much wider tolerances, so a 530 oil probably wouldn't be right for them. But what you can do is you can mix them. If it's the same oil, I don't think there's any problem. I could put 5 quarts of 530 in and maybe 3 quarts of 1030 in, and you'll have a little bit of a hybrid mix there. Or maybe it's a 1040 and 530. But you could see doing that way. You know, check out what your oil pressure is at idle. Make sure it's high enough. And no oil pressure is bad, but you don't want too much oil pressure either. Again, back in the old days, you know, the people were, oh, it's 2050 racing oil. Well, that's because the clearances on the motors were so wide. They kind of needed that to keep the oil pressure up. So here is the 8th quart. If I were to check the dipstick now, if I put it in, that is, it would probably show a little high because the filter is empty. It's not filled up yet until we start the car up. So what I'll do is I'll put the cap back on here after I put this in. We'll start the car up. You know, listen, and I'll listen to the car. We'll look and see if there's any leaks. Again, shouldn't be. Any leaks would possibly be only here up at the oil filter. And then we'll turn it off the car and we will remeasure the oil. So here you go. So you've seen in this whole process, I mean, I'm careful about not spilling oil, but there you go. That is almost done, right? What do we have left? We got to put the oil stick in, and here is the oil level gauge. It's an oil stick, so dipstick. So when you look at it, it's got some writing on it. Whoops, gotta put it up there where you can see it. You can see it says see owner's manual, and then there's some lines right there. See some checkered lines at the very bottom. And then to the top it says where it's full, and it shows minimum. That is a 1 quart level traditionally in a American car like this. So, you know, if the oil is in between there and that checkered, you're fine. If it's at the bottom, hey, time to add a quart of oil. Okay, so that's how you measure that. So we'll put this in again. I need my glasses, which you guys haven't seen yet, but anyways. So there it is. That's going in. Make sure it's all the way in. You know, for a couple reasons. You don't want oil coming out that dipstick. There that is. So here it is. I am going to start the car, and you're welcome to watch that as I start it, and then we'll check the oil and see where we are. Started the car inside, watched the oil pressure gauge, and it was jumped, you know, it was at 0 at first, of course, when I first started, and then bam, popped right up, no problem. So that looks good. The when I really look at this, you know, I don't see any oil other than what I did when I first took it off. So I think that's good. So now what we'll do is we will let the oil settle down a little bit. Again, this car is a little bit unique, but I'm going to just see how it is in the oil. We know what we pulled out, know what we put in, so this might be one that I check tomorrow morning after it's sat overnight. It's not a bad idea to do that with the dipstick, and you'll know then that if you're just a hair low or where you are. And hey, for example, if you accidentally put too much oil in it, you saw that the next morning, you don't have to panic. We got the suction device here. We can just put it back down in. If you know you're half a quart too much in there, you pull it out. You don't want to have too much oil in the car. It's just bad for it. slops around on the crankshaft and just can create problems. So I believe people say spun bearings and other things. You know, you're better off being a half quart low than you are a half quart high. But let's just check it out and see where we are on that. All right. So I'll wipe it off, and the oil that got on it, we will put it back in. That's probably the hardest part. Make sure it goes all the way down so you get an accurate reading. Pull it back out. And you can see it's a little, like when you look at the oil now, you know, it's on the dipstick. You can see it points. Like I said, this car, it probably needs to sit overnight so we get an accurate reading of where it is. I believe it is full with that. You know, we pulled out the 8 quarts and that's what we put in. So we're not going to put any more, and we're not going to do anything. And tomorrow morning, I think what I'll do is we will then see what it is again. So these are my rubber protectors. They're soft. My wife got them for me for Christmas one time out of a magazine, and they are super handy for any car. They're just soft. They definitely help to keep it from getting injured. So there is an oil change on a 94 ZR1. This would be applicable for any of the ZR1s from 90 to 95. No difference. Also, I would say that any car you can do it on, as long as it has a dipstick. You know, if it has an oil filter where you can get at without crawling under the car, so the better. But maybe the oil filter is there, and it does have a dipstick. You could still roll it up on, you know, on ramps, and you know, suck out all the oil. Don't do the bolt on the bottom, and then you know, do your oil filter from underneath, and that's it. It still saves you some time. I think it's clean. As you can see, I did not spill. If you look over here, you don't see any oil on the ground. I didn't spill anything other than the couple drops there we saw. But anyways, I think it's a time saver, and it makes it easier for you to do the maintenance on your vehicles, lawnmowers, whatever it is, and that is always a good thing. So I wanted to thank you again for watching this episode of Passin Gas Garage. Again, if you haven't subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button and hit the like. I would greatly appreciate it. If there's something else you'd like to see, just tell me. Anything, I'll try it. There's some other cars that just stay tuned. You're going to see some really cool other cars coming up. So again, I do appreciate it, and hope you have a great Passin Gas day.